Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where you are in the globe. In today's PLAAS webinar, we are going to look deeply at what is unfolding in Mozambique around the land framework and policy. On 16th July last year, the president of Mozambique, Filipe Nyusi, officially launched the public hearing process of the National Land Policy Revision, aimed at amending the 1997 land law. Even though the state will continue to hold ownership over the land, as assured by the president on the day the process was launched, the National Land Policy Revision signals a significant shift in Mozambique's land governance towards a more market-oriented policy framework that will allow more flexible transfer of land. This has provoked a twofold reaction in the public. It has been applauded by the right-wing forces in our society on the one hand, and highly criticized by a significant segment of civil society for the lack of transparency, secrecy, and even authoritarianism. Mozambique is also experiencing a brutal military conflict in Cabo Delgado, northern Mozambique, which is in part around natural resources as well. We are fortunate today to have three outstanding voices representing some of the most respected organizations and sectors in Mozambique working on land and natural resources. We have Dr. Alda Salomão, which is the director of TINZILA. TINZILA stands for Land and Natural Resources Governance Research Center. She is also legal advisor at Centro Terra Viva, CTV, which is another outstanding organization in Mozambique. We also have Mr. Isidro Macaringi, the head of advocacy department at UNAC. UNAC stands for União Nacional de Camponeses, National Peasants Union in Mozambique. And we also have Gisela Zunguzi, part of Justiça Ambiental, Friends of the Earth Mozambique. Giselle is also a legal practitioner. So we are very fortunate to have these three voices to kind of help us understand what is happening in Mozambique and what are the risks involved in the process. I would like to start with Isidro, especially because Isidro has been following this process since it has started. And Isidro will then walk us through, help us understand what is happening in Mozambique, giving us some overview of what is at stake, and also tell us what is the position of UNAC and the position of the peasantry in Mozambique. Isidro, over to you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone who is watching this webinar. My name is Isidro, and I'm with the Mozambique National Small-Scale Farmers Union, UNAC, which is a national organization of small-scale farmers. We've been existing for almost 35 years now, and our aim is to fight for small-scale farmers' rights, including right to land. Actually, UNAC was created in a situation in which in 1987, social and economic transformation were happening in Mozambique, and we needed to secure land for small-scale farmers to practice agriculture and continue to develop the country. Well, first I will try to draw the situation in terms of what's happening, what is the background, the justification and partners, and what's the current situation regarding the land law revision. Well, the process started almost 10 years ago in 2007 in the commemoration of the 10 years of the land law. Some voices had the opinion that the current land policy and the current land law should be revised. Mostly voices, as Boa said, mostly voices linked to the right-wing opinion, saying that it should be revise it to facilitate more investment and the private sector. From our side, in terms of a civil society organization and also a small farmers organization, we thought that the most importantly, we should work on the implementation to have better implementation of the law. For example, these voices that wanted the law to be revised, even though it was considered by a consensus by everyone that our law was one of the best laws of the world, in which it accommodated the rights of the communities, customary rights, and also promoted investment, or not only by national private sector, or also by international private sector. So in 2010, the government created the Land Consultation Forum, which is a space for debate, a space for consultation of the various voices that have an opinion on the matter of land governance. You find there civil society, the private sector, academia, and other people who really have something to say about this issue. So officially, the process of revision of the land policy and the land law was launched in 2007 in the ninth section, or the ninth meeting of the Land Consultation Forum, and there we saw some evidence that the process was really going to happen. It was launched by the president of the republic, and in many aspects it touched on the issue of, as I said before, enhancing or making it better the environment for business practices, especially talking about transferability or transmissibility of the land titles. Passing from that, in 2020, last year, it was launched the public consultation process, and in which is currently happening. Well, in terms of the rationale or the justification, some aspects, that we think that really make sense in some ways, that the population of the country has almost doubled since the current law was elaborated in 1997, and we have a new administrative division in which governors from the provinces are elected by the people of those regions. And since starting in 2024, at district level, the administrators will also be elected. So that raised some concerns in how land governance will be managed in this new system. And we also have the climate change aspect, in which causes many parts of the population to move from some areas to another, and also the big investments are coming to the country, so that also causes resettlement of population, and it's a big issue, and a big something that contributes to land conflicts at some points. In terms of partners who are supporting technically and also financially the process, we know that the government it's funding the process, but international partners, we've got the World Bank, the USAID, FAO, and the Swiss Corporation. For us, it concerns a little bit about the role of all the agenda of the World Bank and USAID concerning this process and what they want to achieve with this. But we know that they are part of the donors, the partners that are involved in the process. Currently, what's happening? I forgot to mention that since the process was launched in 2017. In 2018, it was created a technical commission in which UNAC is a part of. Even in the first, in the elaboration of the current land policy and land law, we were also integrated in a commission, a technical group that was responsible of conducting the process. So it's happening the same now. We are part of the process as a civil society organization. There was a fight to accommodate or to integrate more organizations, but unfortunately, UNAC was the only one. But even though we are also integrated in other platforms in which we discuss the issues, and we try to advocate and influence the process from the inside, taking part of the technical commission, and also from the civil society groups that are advocating for community rights to land. So currently, as I was saying, the process, I think last month, this month, what was ended the first round of public consultation. From what we know, the data or the results of the inquiries are being processed at the stage of 35% now. And it started a new phase of the process of public consultation, in which national organization institutions will be consulted, civil society, academia, private sector, and other people in terms of national level organizations, and also at some provinces. So this is what's happening in terms of the public consultation now regarding the land policy process. Before that, it will all the results will be divulgated to the public, and it will go to a second round of consultations to the districts and communities. Then the process will go to the Council of Ministries, and at the end to the Parliament. Well, as I mentioned, UNAC, we are part of the technical commission, which is the technical group. This group is not responsible for elaborating the current law. It's a technical group to conduct the process. It's a technical group to prepare the consultations, and to synthesize what is being like in the consultation, what people are saying at the ground level, especially at the ground level, what people are saying and what they think about the various points of the process, and give it back to the consultation forum, to the ministry, and all those spaces that are created. We have publicly issued a statement, a declaration about this process. First, we think that everything that was said by the president of the republic should be respected, in terms that this should be a punctual revision. We should not try to change many things on the law, especially about land privatization. Shouldn't be even discussed, because the president said that with this revision, which land should still be from the ownership of the state, and the rights of the community should be respected, and also access to land to all Mozambicans for investment, and also for other uses, and also access to land by women should also be respected. So we think that first those criteria should be respected and not be changed. Our fight is to advocate and to influence the process, especially regarding the issue of transmissibility of land titles, which we think that at some point could be a first step to land privatization. Not now, maybe in the future, because we know that transmissibility, yes, it does exist in the current law. It's weak. I mean, the government is weak on implementing and supervising how people transfer their land title, especially in the urban areas. And from what we are seeing in the public debate, is that the proposal for this process is that in the rural areas in which land titles transmissibility is harder to they want to flex.
I will ask you to hold it there, because we're gonna come back to this question. I would like to ask Gisela to come in, because I know that Justiça Ambiental, Friends of the Earth Mozambique, was invited to comment on the process, and the organization wrote a very extensive comment on the process, highlighting some of the contradictions that they've identified in the process. Gisela, how do you read this process in Mozambique? And to inform our viewers that Gisela will speak in Portuguese, and we should be able to hear the interpretation from the interpreter. Gisela, please go ahead, and hoping that the interpretation will work.
Boa tarde, meu nome é Gisela Zunguzi, da Justiça Ambiental. Justiça Ambiental é uma organização da sociedade civil, defesa do...
Gisela, penso que temos de ver se a Lúcia te ouve. Let's see if we can bring Lucia in, if we can unmute Gisela and unmute Lucia, to see if we can hear the interpretation. Lucia, can you unmute yourself and speak? Gisela, pode continuar. Okay, it seems like we're having a technical issue here. Gisela, I apologies. I will have to invite Alda to speak before you, so that we try to solve the interpretation issue. Alda, you have been working on land and natural resources for many years. You're one of the most heard voices in relation to this topic, and I know you have been engaging in discussions and groups that have been looking very closely to the land policy revision process. What can you tell us about this? What is actually happening from your point of view?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, my name is Alda Salomão. As I was introduced, I am a senior legal advisor at Centro Terra Viva, and I'm also the general director for UNZILA, which is the Land Governance Research Institution. When you have a legal instrument that is so acclaimed and applauded, it's very difficult for you to deal with the attempts of changing it when you don't understand very, very clearly the reasons why changes need to be introduced. And for me, this is the major issue. I think there should be a very, very clear reason shared with everybody about why are we going to change the national land policy and why are we going to change the land law. I think Isidro somehow mentioned one of the concerns around this is the fact that many studies that have been done, many assessments that have been done on Mozambique land governance, Mozambique legal framework, etc., have concluded that the major problem in Mozambique lies on the implementation side. Okay, so if this is the main conclusion, then when you're going to change the policy and the law, the first question that arises is, to what extent is this change going to help to improve the implementation component? What implementation aspects are we going to address, or what implementation aspects exist that need to be changed by changing the policy and changing the law. This is the heart of the issue, in my opinion. We have been acclaimed for very good reasons. This policy and legal framework has made a very big effort in highlighting that the land governance pillars in Mozambique are based on the state preoccupation in, firstly, ensure rights protection. Secondly, ensure, and in the first pillar, you know, that in spite of having decided that the land and other natural resources are the property of the state, land use rights recognized to all citizens and to all communities in Mozambique have almost the same weight, legal weight, as property rights. And this was consciously taken, assumed by the state itself. So protecting the rights of all Mozambicans to access and use land and to enjoy a great extent of security of tenure is the first objective of the Mozambican state. The second pillar is political inclusion, how citizens and communities should participate in decisions that are taken in the land sector. That's why we have a very famous procedural aspect, which is community consultations. And these community consultations were created precisely to ensure that the voices and the opinions and interests of the citizens would be heard by the government when taking decisions on how lands should be accessed and used. The third pillar is economic inclusion. When the national land policy directs that access to rural land, especially rural land, is subject to negotiation and consent from the legitimate owners, this means that these owners, these legitimate land use rights holders, are the first economic actors that should enjoy the space to use land for revenue generation and to improve their social and economic well-being. So the imperative to negotiate access to rural lands has been drafted in such a way that if a community says no, this position should be respected. That's one aspect to be highlighted. Another aspect to be highlighted is that there is no restriction in implementing economic activities on community lands. What the Constitution and the policy and the law direct is that these partnerships need to be negotiated in good faith, and that the legitimate land use rights owners should have a strong voice in deciding what happens in their land. Fourthly, there is a major directive, a fourth pillar, which is benefit sharing. Whoever accesses land or uses land is supposed to share the benefits of land and other resources with the whole society. So when we decide, when the government decides to change the policy and the law that are grounded on these four pillars, I think it's legitimate to ask why. What are we trying to do? What are we trying to improve? What's precisely the objective of this policy and land review? So lack of clarity on the objectives is very concerning for us. I would, however, say that giving the benefit of the doubt to the group that was formed to lead the review, my expectation is that this review is aimed to consolidate these pillars and improve these pillars to ensure that we will minimize the implementation factors that we've been facing, where land rights are not being protected as they should, political participation of citizens and communities not ensured and guaranteed as it should. Economic inclusion is far from being achieved, with the priority being given to external investors, mostly private foreign investors, instead of creating the ground for local actors to intervene. And benefit sharing also, leaving much to be desired. Okay, so if the objective of the review is to consolidate these pillars, then we may be in a better situation than we are now. But as I say, for me, we should have a clarity about what objectives do we want to achieve with this review. If we are failing in the implementation part, it's not the content of the law and the policy that's at stake here, is the implementation. So one question that also should be asked is, to what extent are we going to improve the implementation problems that we face? And also, what are the implementation problems that we face? What are the factors that have been jeopardizing our performance in the implementation? And those reports, many of the studies that I mentioned in the beginning, usually indicate issues that are not related to the quality of the legal instruments. Corruption, so public integrity, very low knowledge of the law, for example, by citizens. You may have a very good legal instruments, but if citizens do not know the law, do not know how to use the law, then you will have problems in implementation. With regard to public integrity and transparency and commitment to good governance, if you don't have a government that's committed to good governance, you may change the policy, you may change the law, but you will remain having problems in the implementation side, okay? So also, if you draft and approve legal instruments without preparing yourself as a state to ensure that you have the institutional capacity in terms of human resources, in terms of material resources, in terms of financial resources to implement the law, then you will have problems. And it's been registered in many studies and assessment reports that the government itself doesn't have the necessary knowledge, the necessary resources to implement the law. For example, to monitor investments, to monitor how land that's being allocated to big investment is being used. One finding that's not really very new is, for example, that many very large extensions of land have been given to so-called investors, but they're not being used, okay? And the government does not seem to have the capacity or maybe the political will to ensure that this does not happen, because this happens at the jeopardy of local citizens and local communities. Usually, these investments are directed to land occupied by local communities and citizens. So the process is somewhat concerning also because, as Isidro mentioned, the decision to review the policy and the land law was taken in 2017. Since then, the National Consultation Forum was never convened. So for me, this is a very concerning issue. Who's then taking the decisions? This consultation forum is supposed to be the platform, the multi-sectoral platform, where all interests in our society should have opportunity to say something about a decision as important as this one. But the plan, that as far as I know, the plan is to submit the new policy and the law to the Council of Ministers in December without these instruments having been, presented for public consultation and for public contribution. So I think there are procedural aspects that should be taken into account in discussing the process. So I tried to highlight here two aspects. One is the justification, and the second one is process. We have UNAC as a member of the policy review, but as Isidro mentioned, this commission is far from being inclusive. UNAC was included there in a capacity that is not very clear. UNAC insists that it's there representing civil society, but the government has formally and clearly indicated that the UNAC member that is in the commission is there in his personal capacity, which means that, we have a commission where civil society is not represented. I will not talk about gender representation in this commission because maybe Isidro should also say something about that. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, in fact, there have been, thank you very much, Alda. I think your presentation and the presentation of Isidro were very good and powerful. In fact, one of the criticisms about the composition of the technical team or the commission is that women are underrepresented and civil society is also underrepresented. I'm going to call in Gisela, who will speak in Portuguese, and I will try to summarize after her intervention because we're having technical problems with interpretation. Gisela, I was saying that Justiça Ambiental, your organization, has written a position document after analyzing deeply the documentation on the revision process. What are the contradictions that you have identified, Gisela?
Gisela? Boa, a Kensane está-me a ligar agora e ela quer saber como é que é para instruir a ela, como é que ela tem que fazer.
Fala já em português, eu vou interpretar.
Tu vais interpretar, o Boa vai interpretar, eu vou falar em português. Então ligo o meu micro do computador. Sim. Ok. Sim. Desculpa por esse transtorno. Ok, o Boa vai interpretar. Boa tarde. Meu nome é Gisela Zunguzi, da Justiça Ambiental. Eu penso que muita coisa já foi dita pela doutora Alda, pelo Isidro. A Justiça Ambiental elaborou uma posição sobre este processo da revisão da Política Nacional de Terras. E nós constatamos que, de uma forma geral, carece de uma fundamentação, que a doutora Alda também mencionou, mas essa é a principal constatação. Não há uma fundamentação, não estão claras em momento nenhum as razões que ditaram a necessidade da revisão da Política Nacional de Terra e os respectivos instrumentos legais. O documento refere-se inúmeras vezes de várias discussões, debates, consensos alcançados no âmbito do Fórum de Consulta da Terra. No entanto, as tais atas dos referidos encontros e as questões discutidas não estão disponíveis para o público, embora já tenha sido solicitado, mas até o momento nunca foi disponibilizado. E há uma necessidade urgente de fundamentar devidamente o processo da revisão da Política Nacional de Terra e de mais instrumentos legais, e disponibilizar ao público em geral todos os documentos referidos, atas dos encontros do Fórum da Consulta de Terra, os estudos elaborados pela Organização da Sociedade Civil, que supostamente também foram levados em consideração quando a decisão da revisão da política. Importa ainda clarificar aqui a legitimidade social de um processo que se pretende que seja o mais abrangente possível, com a participação e envolvimento de todos os moçambicanos no atual contexto da Covid-19. E mais ainda grave, temos o cenário dos ataques dos insurgentes em Cabo Delgado, a guerra no centro do país. Que legitimidade social pode ter este processo perante esta realidade? O governo está preparado para assumir que estes moçambicanos que se encontram em zonas de guerra e de conflito e tantos outros que se encontram de alguma forma restritos pelas medidas impostas devido ao Covid, não terão qualquer contribuição neste processo? Outra questão que preocupa bastante a justiça ambiental, eu acredito que há muitas outras organizações da sociedade civil, é a questão da transmissibilidade de doate, que esta revisão pretende introduzir. Esta é uma das mais problemáticas que estão, pois essa transmissibilidade, ela pretende o doate no mercado livre e aberto, que iria, inclusive, necessitar de alterações pontuais da Constituição da República, no nosso entender. Porque ela retira a obrigatoriedade das consultas públicas, consultas comunitárias, que são de grande importância, sobretudo no contexto atual em que Moçambique vive, em que Moçambique é um dos países que atrai os investidores internacionais por causa dos recursos naturais existentes no país. Importa referir mais de uma vez que as consultas comunitárias ou públicas são de grande importância, e a ausência deste requisito irá aumentar o índice dos conflitos de usurpação de terra, irá criar tensões sociais e mais outros neles relacionados. Importa também referir aqui que, pelo discurso sempre apresentado pelo governo ou pela Comissão Nacional da Revisão da Política Nacional de Terra, está claro que este processo da revisão da Política Nacional de Terra pretende responder aos desafios da economia, do mercado, aberta e livre, que, como se sabe, é a estratégia de implementação do capitalismo neoliberal, cujo objetivo é apenas gerar e ganhar lucro, acumulação de capital. Portanto, é nada alinhado à ideologia que ditou a luta da libertação do país e os valores populares e emancipadores que orientaram o processo de nascimento da nossa nação. E também, ao afirmar-se que a terra pertence ao Estado, isto pretende deixar claro que a terra é do povo. Existem inúmeras e graves indicações que o atual processo da revisão da lei de terra, principalmente se continuar a decorrer no atual contexto que se vive no país, irá retroceder o respeito dos ganhos já alcançados pela lei ainda em vigor e contribuirá bastante para os conflitos, aumento dos conflitos de terra, o empobrecimento das comunidades rurais, não só das rurais, nós também que estamos na zona urbana, as nossas residências estão fixadas na terra. Portanto, isso afeta a todos. E maior dependência de agronegócio e outros projetos de extrativismo. Portanto, outra questão que preocupa-nos nessa questão, embora isso não tenhamos escrito na nossa posição, como digamos, o papel de algumas organizações da sociedade civil, que nós não percebemos. Tudo bem que a Comissão Nacional também não é transparente, a Comissão Nacional da Revisão da Política de Terra não é transparente. Qual é o papel dele? As atividades que estão a ocorrer não informam a sociedade civil, mas está escrito que deviam informar a sociedade civil. Mas o mais preocupante ainda é ver algumas organizações da sociedade civil que nós não percebemos, nós não entendemos qual é o real papel delas. Existe uma comissão, a plataforma, o grupo de reflexão do Fórum da Consulta sobre a Terra. Nós tivemos vários encontros e na televisão, nós soubemos através da televisão que algumas organizações assinaram um memorando, mas em momento algum, durante esses encontros, mencionaram essa questão, só fomos ouvir pela mídia. Isso é preocupante. E solicitamos no grupo de WhatsApp criado e no grupo de e-mail criado sobre este processo, e solicitamos o que é que está escrito neste memorando, mas infelizmente nenhuma das organizações que assinou o memorando disponibilizou ou prestou-se a nos informar algo. E há dias foi lançada a questão da auscultação que foi feita. E nenhuma dessas organizações que assinaram o memorando informaram-nos como é que essa auscultação está sendo feita. Portanto, é preocupante, nós sabemos aqui qual é o papel destas organizações que assinaram o memorando. Eu acho que o governo tem os seus déficits que nós conhecemos, mas se nós, como organização da sociedade civil, continuarmos a nos comportar dessa forma, não chegaremos a lugar nenhum. Não vamos ter aquela sociedade civil coesa que ditou a elaboração e aprovação desta lei que está em vigor, se nós continuarmos a nos comportar assim. Penso que é muito importante que, como sociedade civil, a gente firme quais são os nossos objetivos, o que é uma organização da sociedade civil, o que é liderar uma organização da sociedade civil. Eu penso que é mais ou menos isso. Não sei se...
Thank you. Muito obrigado, Gisela. Thank you very much. I'll try to summarize what Gisela said. So Gisela said that her organization, Justiça Ambiental, crafted the position paper on the process because they believe that the whole idea of reviewing the current land policy and legislation lacks justification. So they say that it's very weak. The reasons that are presented are very weak. Giselle also says that the document on the process refers to numerous debates and consensus that have been reached that, inform the need or the necessity to change the current land policy, but the minutes of those debates and meetings are not provided, and so they feel that there is some degree of secrecy in the process. Justiça Ambiental believes that there is no need for the current policy and land to be changed. And they also say that the process lacks social legitimacy because currently we are under a military conflict in Cabo Delgado. So, there is no conditions for a public consultation process to happen. And also we are under a COVID emergency kind of regulation situation that do not allow a public participation in the process. So this process lacks social legitimacy. One of the issues that is very critical for Justiça Ambiental is the issue of the transmissibility of DUAT. They believe that these will open doors for land to be sold and bought. And this process also violates the Constitution because it means that the Constitution will have to be changed first so that the land revision, the land law can be altered. Gisela also believes that the current land public consultations and hearing that are happening are not legitimate. And these will probably cause more land conflicts among and between. In the countryside, and they believe that this is an agenda. It's a neoliberal agenda. It's a market agenda, and this process will lead to more accumulation of capital. And this process is against the historical struggle that Mozambicans have conducted in the past, and that this will reverse the gains of that struggle process. I believe is the struggle for independence in Mozambique. And Giselle also questions the participation of some civil society organizations in the land committee, in the committee that will review the policy. I guess Giselle is questioning the presence or participation of UNAC because it's the only civil society organization that is there. And Gisela ends her presentation by saying that civil society should unite and be stronger around these issues. I hope I did justice to Gisela's presentation, but Isidro and Alda, you can also add. I'm going now to, unless you have a burning issue to say in relation to what the three of you said, I'm going to read some questions that were posed by some of our viewers. And the first question is, can I be, so the first question comes from Pilani Zamchia, who is asking two questions actually. The first one is, are the proposed changes going to see some revisions on the DUAT? So how will DUAT be affected, and also what is it for women? And I don't know if is there anyone that would like to react on this? I would probably invite Alda to say something.
Okay, thank you for the question. Well, the president has announced that community rights and citizens' rights, particularly women's rights, should be protected. That this review aims precisely to ensure that rights are not jeopardized. Well, that's why Giselle, myself, and others are wondering, then shouldn't we all ensure that there is clarity in the way in the content of this review, so that we ensure that rights are not going to be touched? This is what we are all saying, that we've gained a lot in terms of protecting rights, but it's not very clear. Personally, I think a revision at this point should aim at ensuring that the duat has such a strong legal weight that it merits the state itself to be more careful in the decisions it takes that may put that right in danger. For me, in what regards rights protection, this review should aim to consolidate and to improve not only substantive procedures, but also procedural provisions directed to the state, mainly to ensure that the state does not represent a danger to citizens' land rights.
Right. Thanks, Alda. Isidro, do you want to say something? I will also, while you are thinking, I will also pull another question to the screen, which comes from Ruth Hall. So Ruth Hall says, what's underway, the return of conditionality on land rights, that communities' tenure is conditional on productive use, and the same conditionalities imposed on investors who don't invest. Isidro, do you want to respond to this question? And also if you want to say something on my previous question?
Yes, thank you, Bo. I'll start with the first question, which is is this process going to change some aspect on the duat? Well, that's what we are fighting for. We don't want to see things changes in the duat, especially in terms of turning the duat in a collateral or an instrument for an economic or financial benefit. That would affect a lot the peasants, small-scale farmers, because they have a lack of knowledge and a few bargaining position compared to investors. If, for example, you allow transferability of the duat to become more flexible in rural areas, small-scale farmers will be affected, because if an investor who has got more money and more resources to acquire land from small-scale farmers, they will easily, because of the conditions of poverty, of low-level education, to give away their duats. We expect that this revision in terms of implementation strengthens the capacity of the community to have a stronger duat via the customer rights, and also via the titles themselves, using the formal way. In terms of what's in for the women, it's one of the four pillars of the revision, in which the president said that it should strengthen women's participation in land access, and we think that women should have access to land via the customer rights, and also the formal way, at the same rights compared to men. Because currently, what happens, the country is very large, and the social economics, social realities are different. in some parts, women have only access to land when they are married to a man and as part of succession or inheriting land from men. But that should change. Women should have access to land at an equal way, using both customary rights and also the formal law. But no, it's that difficult because social practices, cultural practices, we have polygamous societies and etc. Well, I don't know if I got it very well, the second question. But what we are trying to see if that what the main what's going to guide the debates is what the people are going to say during the consultations. First, the first part of the consultation has ended now in this month, and it's starting the second part of the consultation. So I think that civil society organizations should become more as a unique voice in order to influence the process in the next stages that it will go. So the process is going, and we have the opportunity to influence. And UNAC, we have the strategy, being part of the technical commission of the commission. We have the strategy of influencing from the inside and also from the outside, using the various platforms and also the various public institutions like the Council of Ministers, the Parliament, and etc. So we think that we should always all be active as civil society organizations to influence the process and also to disseminate what's happening to the communities that will be affected primarily from this process.
Thank you. Gisela, queres dizer alguma coisa? Do you want to say something, Gisela? If not, there is an interesting question here, is in fact in relation to what Gisela was saying, which is around the participation of civil society. So it seems that there is a segment of civil society that decides not to participate or to boycott the process, and others, including UNAC, prefer to influence from inside. So Ruth all asked if there is like what are the preconditions for participation which civil society organizations could agree on. And this has to do with what Gisela was saying. Gisela, queres dizer alguma coisa sobre essa pergunta? Que condições é que estiveram por detrás da eleição de umas organizações e não outras? E, portanto, que estratégias podem ser construídas entre várias organizações da sociedade civil? Gisela?
Boa, não ouvi a sua tradução, desculpa.
A minha tradução era, por exemplo, por que umas organizações participam, outras não? Quais foram as precondições para que umas participem, outras não? E o que pode-se fazer estrategicamente para que as organizações sejam mais coesas e unidas, no teu ponto de vista?
Eu acho que primeiro as organizações têm que estar, da sociedade civil têm que estar unidas, termos um objetivo comum. Pelo que eu sei, as organizações da sociedade civil, todos nós sabemos qual é o fim que elas pretendem atingir, não olharmos para aquilo que são agendas internas, às vezes pessoais, da liderança, às vezes, ou há muito protagonismo por parte das organizações que, de uma ou de outra forma, até os doadores acabam nos levando até isso, para nós criar essa questão de protagonismo. Então, temos que parar com a questão de protagonismo nas organizações e olharmos para aquilo que é um bem comum, aquilo que é um objetivo comum que pretendemos atingir. Não querer aparecer, porque uma organização quer aparecer que eu faço parte deste processo. Então, isso é bastante preocupante, não é? A Comissão Nacional da Revisão da Política Nacional teve um encontro com a JA e no encontro disseram que estavam a ter vários encontros com outras organizações da sociedade civil de forma separada por causa do contexto da Covid-19. E eles teriam dito que está em aberto para qualquer organização que pretende assinar um memorando, porque isso seria útil para a obtenção de fundos nos doadores, o facto de fazer parte de um processo como este. Então, é preocupante ouvir isso da comissão, que é praticamente o governo, que é mais composto pelo governo do que pela sociedade civil. Então, eu penso que se as organizações da sociedade civil não se unirem e resgatarem aquilo que são os seus, a sua missão, a sua visão, infelizmente nós vamos cair ao abismo.
Yeah. So in response to Ruth's question, Gisela says that of course there is no other choice than civil society organizations to be united. They should be united and they should overcome some issues of protagonism and wanting to appear more prominent than others, and also that they should resist the Commission strategy to meet civil society separately. Because this can, intensify or further divide civil society. I'm going to, I'm speaking in English, I'm so confused. We have 5 minutes left, and I see some other questions in the chat. I believe that we can try to kind of deal with them while we are also making some concluding remarks. So I will ask Isidro to, on one hand, to react to the questions from Nkanyi Sogumendi, who says that big companies have been strategically dispossessing people of their land. Does the proposed changes address this in any way? And there is another question from him that I will put so that you can address them while you're making your concluding remarks. There is a debate about land nationalization in South Africa. What lessons should be learned from Mozambique's experience? So please, you have 1.5 minutes to respond to this and make concluding remarks.
Yes, thank you, Bo. I will just address the questions and also wrapping up what I have to say in this final part. First, I think you missed the question from Ruth. She was asking if there are any allies in the ruling party that can work with. Yes, we think that somehow society is divided, that one party, I think the vanguard, they do think that the land should remain a property of the state, and we shouldn't try to go towards a direction that could lead us to some way of privatization. And we are trying to get a regional and international experience, especially regarding transmissibility, in a way that if transmissibility is changed in some way, we can learn from similar realities, similar contexts, that we should have a specific arguments to defend what we want to achieve. That transmissibility should be the way it is now, and we shouldn't change it in a way that it will favor a privatization of law in the future. I mean, in the long term, in 10 and 20 years in the future. Yes, big companies, this is a very big issue when we talk about land conflicts in Mozambique. And we think that if during this process, if we strengthen the community consultations part in terms of giving it a more strong juridical character, maybe it will defend the local community in terms of Alda was mentioning it. For example, corruption of traditional leaders. Some cases we see land being usurped from communities in which the traditional leader, because he represents the community, what he has to say is considered as something that really is for all the community in a certain area. Which
you really have to wrap up because we are. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that we should use this process to strengthen this part of community consultation, and also maybe if we try to come up with the land courts, specialized courts that should rule land conflicts. We don't have this in Mozambique, and that should be something very interesting if we had in the future. About the lessons from South Africa, I think that different contexts. I think that South Africa should go in a way that it should go give land to those who need more to produce, and especially to the poor and to the majority of the population. And I think I will end here, and thank you.
Thanks, Isidro. Gisela, queres dizer algumas últimas palavras, mas tens mesmo 10 segundos. And Alda, do you want to wrap up? You have 10 seconds. We really need to close this session.
Eu penso que temos que repensar ou reinfraestruturarmos a distribuição da terra antes de pensarmos em fazer uma revisão da Política Nacional de Terra. E essa nova revisão não vai resolver a usurpação de terra, mas sim vai aumentar o índice dos conflitos de terra. Está claro isso.
Alda, I will say what Gisela said in my concluding remarks. Alda?
Oh, okay. Well, it's said that we feel that we should boycott a process that could be used actually for a very, very positive goal. So the issue here is the fact that, okay, we are witnessing a process that we are not sure that it's going to lead us to what it should lead. But I think it's our responsibility as Mozambicans to do whatever needs to be done. Yes, there are allies within the party. There are allies in government. Civil society for sure needs to be better organized and do whatever it needs to be done on a timely manner, because this process is really going towards its end. Thank you very much, Bo, and everybody for inviting us for this discussion. Clearly, we needed more time, right? So maybe we should do this again. Thank you.
Thanks, Alda. Gisela was saying in her concluding remarks that the revision process, and if the law is changed, it's not gonna end land conflicts, and in fact, it's gonna increase more land conflicts. Thank you very much. That's it for today. Thank you for watching us. See you next Thursday for another PLAAS webinar in which we are going to be discussing the issue of social reproduction during the pandemic, women, food, labor, and time in 3 African countries. I hope to see you all next Thursday. Thank you to the speakers as well. Ciao, ciao.